I was 13 years old when my father died, and I was surrounded by people who I think really tried. And I remember sometimes they'd let me retreat to this room at the school with just a desk and a seat, and I would stay there while my friends were still in class down in the hall, and I would find myself staring at this poster on the wall. The stages of grief. There were 5 that were listed. And by how often I heard them, you'd think someone insisted that this was the way I had to deal with this pain. And it's taken me years, but I think now I can explain. You see, it wasn't the list itself I'd resented, but really the way it was often presented. As if grief were simple, and one day I'd just accept that there's this hole now inside me, and its name is inept. Because that's how I feel when the world says, keep going. How can I do that without even knowing? Here's what I know. Grief comes with change. So obviously there's an incredible range of ways that it manifests itself in our lives, and they want to tell me that it boils down to 5? So okay, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. After all, denial is the first one they talk about. But it's not as if you don't believe that something's happened. It's more like not admitting you're inverted and should strap in. And anger, well, you could call it frustration, that this isn't just a wind change, but a seeded plantation. This is where you live now, as far as you can tell, and it's getting so much harder to just say, oh well. So then comes the pleading. Not with God, but with self. I have to remember that there's this thing called health. I'm still here, and I have to gain a foothold. And there are others who are here for me, I was told. But I don't bargain or plead with them. All I have to do is ask. Except, I can only try to hint devoid of a task for anyone to complete so that I can feel better. And don't even get me started on people grieving together. Depression is the second to last on the list, and if you ask me, it's a composite piece from all the rest, because you can't try to tell me that I haven't been depressed this whole time, or that when it comes to acceptance that I'm not in my prime. I have accepted a whole lot. I have accepted that basic assumptions mean squat compared to the hopes and the dreams that I had to abandon since life kept on going without Dad. Depression is the one we all think we get. It seems the most like grief itself and a general upset, but in truth it's the point when one stops fighting the change. You look around for your bearings, but everything's strange. It's like meeting your life again in a dream when you were you, but not you, you know what I mean? Except you're awake, and you know it, and this is not going away, nor is everything you miss. How can this possibly be the final stage? Everything looks different, but you didn't turn the page. Your voice and others say you have to move on. That's the catchphrase, the siren song, the beautiful lie that on is a place to which I can move. And the chorus says, if I let it go, I'll improve. So nostalgia weighs down and you ache for home. You want back what you had, something familiar, known. You want your life the way it used to look before you felt like a fish on a hook. But home, I've realized, is somewhere I'm going. And these hopes that I'm grieving, I have no way of knowing that what I once wanted, clearly not what I get, is nothing compared to what hasn't come yet. If I can say with assurance that what's coming is pain, then joy, then frustration, some pride, some shame, if I know that these things are just the human condition, then in moments of grief, I have but one mission: to feel it. The same way I feel all emotion. These stages aren't about some formulaic potion. 15 years later, and I can't shake the grief, but just knowing that there's another side gives me great relief. Where there is joy, there is sorrow. There was a yesterday, there will be a tomorrow. So what is the stage in which I find myself now? Isn't it irresponsible to continue to allow myself to return to these aches and these tears? Shouldn't I be over this after all these years? Some people believe that, and it breaks my heart. This grief period, believe me, has no end once it starts. And I don't say that to discourage you. In fact, the opposite is true. What I want you to do is feel with intent the memories that ache, like snapping a bone to reset a bad break. Stage 6 of the list should be to rinse and repeat. Like all other emotion, grief is never complete. I don't get angry, feel it once, and then never again. And you'd think my triggers for depression were old friends, considering how often they come knocking at my door like starving little creatures saying, please, I want some more. I'm saying go ahead and feed them, because at least they go away instead of knocking, gnawing day after day, until you've choked your grief down to the root, and the reason this all started is becoming minute. You'll never forget them, you say, and it's true, but you guard yourself against everything new. Be sure to love and to hope and to dream. Know when you're beaten, but have self-esteem. Someday someone will be grieving you too. And with that in mind, what would you ask that they do? Grief is a dark tunnel, but it's not a cage. Take this role, play it well, and then get off the stage.